Evan Hale had been living on the Great Diplomatic Space Station for only 3 months, but every day still felt unreal to him. He had grown up on a quiet part of Earth, where the loudest thing in the morning was the sound of old buses and street vendors shouting to sell breakfast. Now he woke up to a soft humming from the station's huge engines and the low musical tones of alien languages echoing in the hallways. He often wondered how a simple technician like him had ended up working among species that humans had met only a few years ago. Humans were still new in the galactic community, still learning how other species behaved, communicated, and lived. The station served as a bridge between cultures, a place where mistakes were forgiven, and curiosity was welcomed. Evan had always been curious enough to try new things, but nothing prepared him for the strange surprise he would face on a quiet night. Earlier that day, a message arrived in Evan's datapad saying he was being assigned 2 new room assistants. It wasn't unusual. Many residents on the station received helpers who cleaned, organized, and kept living quarters in order. Evan simply nodded at the screen and carried on with his shift, fixing light panels and checking oxygen flow meters in different corridors. He did not even think about the message again after that. By the time his work ended, he was tired enough to fall asleep the moment he reached his room. He entered the small but comfortable chamber, placed his boots under the bed, washed his face, and lay down. His mind drifted slowly, thoughts fading until only the soft engine hum remained. He slept deeply, unaware that something unusual was about to happen. Several hours later, Evan felt a strange sensation, not a sound, not a light, just a quiet feeling that something in the room had changed. His eyes opened slowly. At first, everything seemed normal in the dim blue glow of the night lights. He almost convinced himself he had simply woken because of a dream. But as his eyes adjusted, he saw something that made him freeze completely. 2 figures stood near the foot of his bed. They were still as statues, their tall forms outlined by the faint lights. Their skin had a soft silver hue that reflected the glow, and their eyes were large and bright, shimmering like small stars. Their clothes were smooth and flowing, almost like fabric made from moving water. Evan blinked hard, thinking he was still half asleep, but when he opened his eyes again, the figures were still there, silent, unmoving, and watching him with calm curiosity. For 3 long seconds, neither side said a word. Evan's heart jumped once, then steadied. He slowly pushed himself up on his elbows, confused and unsure what to do. Hello?" he whispered cautiously. The 2 figures glanced at each other, as if checking whether they should respond. Finally, the one on the left stepped forward. Her voice was soft, musical, and steady. "Good evening, Evan Hale. We are your newly assigned attendants." Attendants? Evan thought. At night? And in my room without saying anything? He rubbed his eyes, trying to wake up fully. You're the helpers they mentioned this morning?" "Yes," the same figure answered. "My name is Linari. This is Sarah." "We arrived at the scheduled time." Evan stared at them with surprise. "Scheduled time? It's the middle of the night." Linari tilted her head gently, confused. "Night is considered an ideal time for observation and assessment. Our culture finds it peaceful." Evan's confusion only grew. Observation? Assessment? He thought room assistants only helped organize belongings, not stand silently and watch him sleep. He was still trying to understand their presence when Sarah, the second maid, stepped forward. Her eyes were warmer, almost golden, and she spoke with a tone that showed gentle sincerity. "We apologize if our presence startled you," she said. "We did not intend discomfort." Evan took a slow breath and forced himself to relax. They didn't look dangerous. They didn't sound threatening either. In fact, they seemed more confused by his reaction than he was by theirs. He gave a small, tired smile and sat up fully. "No, it's okay. I'm just not used to people appearing in my room at this hour," he said with a hint of humor. "Humans usually knock first." Both maids exchanged another look, as if learning something new. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "We will remember this human preference," she said calmly. Evan studied them carefully. Their movements were smooth, almost floating. Their posture was upright and graceful, like dancers trained to move without sound. He had seen their species before in passing but had never spoken to any of them directly. They were called the Illyrians, a peaceful and intelligent race who valued harmony and emotional understanding over physical strength. Many Illyrians worked in diplomatic roles, helping other species communicate and build trust. Still, it was strange to have two of them in his room, watching him in silence. "So, what exactly were you observing?" Evan asked carefully. "Just to understand," Linari answered instantly, as if the question made perfect sense. "We observe the natural state of the individual. Humans are new to this station. Many of our records remain incomplete. Night observation helps us understand resting behavior, breathing patterns, emotional energy, and personal habits. All this aids in creating comfortable living conditions." Evan blinked. They watched him sleep to understand his comfort? That was new. He didn't want to be rude. But the idea still felt odd. He decided to explain gently. "Humans aren't really comfortable being watched while they sleep. It feels unusual for us." Linari placed a hand on her chest, a gesture that looked like an apology. "We understand. We did not realize." She glanced at Sira again. "We may have made a cultural mistake." "No harm done," Evan said politely. "Just maybe let me know next time before entering the room." Sarah nodded quickly. "We will follow your preference." A quiet moment passed. Evan, now fully awake, started feeling less confused and more curious. They didn't seem like ordinary helpers. Their eyes held too much intelligence, too much focus. Their posture was too alert for simple household duties. He decided to ask a question that had been bothering him since waking. "Are you really just assistants? Or something else?" The two Illyrian maids exchanged a long look, long enough that Evan sensed hesitation. Finally, Sira stepped forward again. "We have more than one purpose." Evan sat up straighter. "Meaning?" Before they could answer, a soft chime echoed in the hallway outside, signaling a shift in the station's energy grid. It wasn't loud, but for some reason, both maids reacted subtly. Their eyes sharpened, their bodies tensed, and their calm expressions changed slightly. It lasted only a moment, but Evan noticed it. Linari turned to him with a calm but serious gaze. "Your presence here is of unique importance. We were instructed to monitor you closely." "Monitor me?" Evan asked, surprised. "Why?" Sarah spoke gently, as if choosing careful words. "Because you are human. And because humans possess qualities, our council wishes to understand better." Evan swallowed. "Such as?" "Your emotional patterns. Your instinct to protect. Your reactions during danger. Your decision-making. All these are unfamiliar to us." Evan didn't know what to say. He was just a technician. He fixed lights and air vents. He wasn't a soldier, a leader, or a scientist. Before he could speak, Linari continued softly. "We mean no harm. Our purpose is peaceful. We simply wish to understand humanity better. And you were chosen because your records show calm temperament, stable work habits, and respectful behavior." Evan let out a breath. "So, you're studying me?" "Yes," Sarah said honestly. "But we also assist you. That is part of our role." Evan leaned back against the headboard, overwhelmed but trying to remain polite. "I wish someone had told me earlier." "We believed you were informed," Linari said quietly. "Well, now I know." The three stood there for a moment, Evan sitting on the bed, Linari and Sarah standing gracefully, their glowing eyes watching him with soft curiosity. The situation was strange, yes, but not dangerous. And somehow, Evan sensed that the Illyrians truly meant well. They simply followed customs he didn't understand yet. Evan sighed and chuckled lightly. "All right. Since you're here, and it's too late for me to go back to sleep, maybe we can talk." Both maids brightened almost instantly. Their eyes softened, and their shoulders relaxed. It was clear they valued communication, maybe even connection. Conversation would be welcome, Sira said warmly. Evan nodded. Good. Then, let's start simple. Tell me something about your culture that humans should know. Lenari stepped forward, her voice gentle. In Illyrian tradition, the night is sacred. It is the time when emotions quiet down and truth becomes easier to see. We believe the heart speaks softly after dark. Evan listened with interest. That's beautiful. Humans don't think of night that way. For us, it's mostly for resting. Sarah smiled slightly. Then we will learn from each other. Evan found himself smiling too. Maybe this would not be so strange after all. Still, he could not shake the feeling that there was more to their arrival. Something they weren't ready to say yet. And he was right, because deep in the station, far from his quiet room, warnings had already begun forming in the council's data channels. Unknown readings. Disturbances near the power cores. Strange signals in maintenance tunnels. Something dangerous was moving closer. And Evan had no idea that his peaceful night was the first step toward a much bigger story. One where the two quiet maids watching him in the dark would soon become the only ones standing between him and a threat he did not yet understand. Evan sat on the edge of his bed, still feeling the strangeness of waking up to two Illyrian maids standing silently in the dark. But now Lenari and Sarah sat with him at the small round table near the wall, speaking politely and trying to make the situation feel normal. Evan could see they did not mean harm. Their calm voices and gentle expressions made it clear they respected him, maybe even admired him in some quiet way. They shared stories about Illyrian traditions, explaining how their people believed that emotions were like soft lights inside the body, and night was the best time to understand those lights. Evan listened carefully, amazed at how different their culture was. He had grown up in a world full of noise, work, and busyness. The Illyrians seemed to live in a world where every feeling mattered, and every small moment was important. Still, Evan could not forget one thing they had said: they were not only assistants but also observers, watching him to understand humanity better. He didn't fully know how to react to that. He wasn't a leader or a scientist. He was just a technician who tried to fix things and stay out of trouble. So why him? As they talked, Evan looked at them closely. Lenari sat straight, with her hands folded gently in her lap. Her silver eyes glowed softly, reflecting the dim blue room lights. Sarah looked warmer and more open, her golden-tinted eyes showing comforting calm. They both looked curious whenever Evan spoke, studying his expressions and reactions like everything he said was important. After a while, Evan stretched his back, still tired from being woken suddenly. So, are you going to watch me every night? He asked with a teasing smile, trying to lighten the mood. Lenari blinked, then gave a soft, embarrassed answer. If that is uncomfortable, we will not. Our purpose is to learn, not to disturb. Sarah nodded. We will adjust to human customs. Evan appreciated their willingness to adapt. Thank you. I think that will help a lot. They smiled gently, creating a peaceful silence. But that silence didn't last long. A sudden flicker of the ceiling light made all three look up. It was a small change, barely noticeable, but Evan knew something was wrong. Lights in Illyrian systems didn't normally flicker unless there was a small power instability, and those were rare. He leaned forward in his chair. Did you see that? Did you see that? Yes, Lenari whispered. Her tone had changed from curious to alert. Another soft vibration passed through the floor. It was faint, but Evan felt it. He had worked in maintenance long enough to understand the station's patterns. Something wasn't right. Sarah stood up, her expression turning serious. There is movement in the power sector. We sensed it earlier when the hallway chime rang. Evan frowned. Movement? You mean a malfunction? The two Illyrian maids exchanged a heavy look, a silent message passing between them. Then Lenari turned back to Evan. We should tell you the truth now. Evan stared at her. About what? About why we were assigned to you. Evan felt his stomach tighten. The way she spoke made it clear this wasn't a small matter. Sarah moved closer, her voice soft but steady. There is growing tension in the council. A faction disagrees with humans joining the alliance. They believe humans are unpredictable. Unpredictable, Evan repeated. We're not that strange. Not strange, Lenari corrected gently. Simply unknown. Unknown things create fear. Evan sat back, confused and uneasy. He had heard about political disagreements on the station, but nothing too serious. Everything was supposed to be peaceful here, Sarah continued. We were assigned to you because you work near the maintenance tunnels. Those tunnels connect to the power cores. A few members of the rogue faction might try to use them. Evan's heartbeat quickened. Use them? For what? To cause disruption, Lenari said quietly. Something that would make humans appear dangerous. It took Evan a moment to understand. The faction wanted to sabotage the station and blame humans for it. He stood up quickly. I need to report this. I need to go to the security office right now. Sarah lifted a gentle hand. No. They already know something is happening. But they do not know the details. And you cannot go alone. Evan looked at her with confusion. Why not? Because you are the target, Lenari said softly. If they use your maintenance access to enter the tunnels, the easiest way to hide their intentions is by removing you. Evan felt cold for a moment. Removing? You mean harming, Sarah said carefully. But we will not allow that. Evan took a slow breath. Things were escalating far faster than he expected. A few minutes ago, he was sleepy and confused by unexpected visitors. Now he was suddenly in the middle of a political conflict he wasn't even trained for. Why me? He whispered. I'm just a technician. Lenari shook her head gently. You are more than that. Your calm nature, your sense of responsibility, your quick thinking, they are all reasons you were chosen. Our superiors believe humans like you can help bring stability to the station. Evan felt strange hearing that. No one had ever described him as someone important. Back on Earth, he was simply a man who fixed electrical panels and carried heavy tools up ladders. But here, 2 alien observers were telling him he mattered. Before he could respond, another vibration shook the floor, stronger this time. The lights dimmed for half a second, then returned to normal. That wasn't normal, Evan said. Something's wrong. Sarah nodded. The disturbance is near the lower power cores. We must go. Go where? Evan asked. To the tunnels, Lenari said. We need to stop the sabotage before it grows. Evan didn't hesitate this time. He grabbed his work jacket, strapped his datapad to his belt, and nodded. Let's move. As they stepped into the hallway, the station felt different, quieter, heavier, as if the air carried tension. The curved corridor was dimly lit. The usual soft music of alien announcements missing. Lenari and Sarah walked gracefully but quickly, their long steps soundless. Evan followed between them, feeling the weight of responsibility settle onto his shoulders. When they reached the elevator that led to the maintenance levels, Evan tapped his badge against the panel. The doors opened, and they stepped inside. As the elevator descended, Evan spoke softly. So you two weren't assigned randomly. You were sent to protect me? Yes, Sarah replied. We observe to learn, and we protect to support peace. Evan gave a small, tired smile. I thought you were just here to clean my room. Lenari smiled faintly. We can do that too. The elevator stopped, and the doors opened into a long hallway. The lights flickered again, longer this time. Evan's instincts sharpened. We're close to the issue, he said quietly. This way. They followed him into a narrow tunnel lined with pipes, cables, and humming machines. Evan had worked here many times before, but tonight felt different. The air felt heavier, as if danger waited around each corner. Suddenly, Lenari raised her hand. Stop. All three froze. A faint metallic sound echoed from deeper in the tunnel footsteps, but slow and careful, like someone trying not to be heard. Evan whispered, That's not a technician. Sarah touched the wall gently, sensing vibrations. 3 individuals, she whispered, moving toward the core access. Evan's pulse began to race. We need to stop them. We will, Lenari said. They moved forward slowly. Evan stayed between them, feeling strangely safe with the two Illyrians at his sides. Their calm energy balanced his rising anxiety. When they turned a corner, they saw shadows ahead, 3 figures crouched near a control panel, trying to override the lock on the power core door. Evan recognized the equipment they were using. He had trained with it. Only authorized technicians had access to it. That meant someone had stolen tools from maintenance. Evan stepped forward quietly. His voice was steady but firm. "You shouldn't be here." The 3 intruders spun around in shock. They were aliens from a species Evan didn't recognize, but their expressions held clear hostility. One of them hissed, "Human, you are not supposed to be here." Evan stood his ground. "Neither are you." Before the intruders could move, Linari and Sarah stepped in front of Evan like a protective shield, their glowing eyes locking onto the attackers. "You will not harm him," Sarah said calmly. The intruders hesitated, surprised by the maid's confidence. Evan could tell they weren't expecting resistance. One intruder reached for a device on his belt. "Stop!" Evan shouted, stepping forward without thinking. His sudden action surprised everyone, even the Illyrians. Evan grabbed a loose tool from the ground and held it defensively. "You're not sabotaging this station." The intruders exchanged a look of frustration. One whispered something in an alien language, and then they began to retreat. The moment they realized they were exposed, their plan collapsed. They ran deeper into the tunnels, disappearing into the darkness. Linari quickly checked the control panel they had been tampering with. They were close to causing serious damage. "You arrived in time." Evan exhaled shakily. "I didn't do much." "You showed courage," Sarah said softly. "We observed that clearly." Evan felt warmth in her words, as if she truly meant them. They secured the lock, sent a report to station security, and stood together in the dim tunnel. The danger had passed for the moment, but the tension remained. Evan now understood the truth. He wasn't just a technician on a quiet station. He was part of something bigger, something dangerous, something important. And Linari and Sarah were not just observers. They were protectors. He looked at them and spoke quietly. "What happens now?" Linari answered with calm certainty. "Now we stay together. Because this is only the beginning." Evan walked slowly through the dim tunnel, still feeling the rush of what had just happened. The intruders were gone. The sabotage attempt was stopped, but his heart had not yet returned to normal. His breathing was deep, steadying itself again. He glanced at Linari and Sarah, walking beside him. They looked calm, but he could sense a quiet tension in their steps. Something deeper than fear, more like concern for what would happen next. The tunnel lights flickered softly again, though not as severely as before. Evan tapped the side of a pipe with his hand. "The system's still unstable," he said. "That means the intruders did more than just try to open a lock." Linari nodded. "Their plan likely had multiple stages." Sarah looked ahead, her golden eyes thoughtful. "They will try again." Evan sighed. He wished he could pretend this was someone else's responsibility, that someone trained for conflict would handle everything. But now he knew the truth. He was involved whether he wanted to be or not. He had seen the intruders with his own eyes, and he had stopped them from harming the station. That alone placed him in the center of the unfolding conflict. Still, something kept him steady. Maybe it was the quiet confidence in Linari's voice, or the protective calm in Sarah's presence. He didn't feel alone. Not anymore. They reached the elevator again, and as they stepped inside, Evan pressed the button for the main engineering level. The doors closed, and the elevator began rising. "Thank you," he said suddenly. Both Illyrians looked at him with surprise. "For what?" Sarah asked softly. "For backing me up," Evan replied. "For stepping in front of me. For everything tonight." Linari bowed her head gently. "It is our role." "No," Evan said, shaking his head. "You could have stayed away. You could have said it wasn't your duty. But you chose to protect me." Their expressions softened, as if his words warmed something inside them. Sarah placed a calm hand over her chest. "Humans feel gratitude so strongly. Your emotion is sincere." Evan smiled a little. "We're simple like that." "You are not simple," Sarah said. "You are unpredictable. Yes, but also strong in heart. That is what our council wishes to understand. The elevator stopped, and the doors opened to the engineering floor. This level was normally bright and full of workers, but now it looked nearly empty. Only a few technicians moved around, speaking in low voices, their faces showing clear worry. Evan approached the nearest engineer, a tall, insect-like alien with clicking mandibles. "Is everything okay up here?" The engineer clicked a nervous reply. "Systems unstable. Unknown interference near central power grid. Security looking for suspects." Evan nodded and stepped back. The engineer continued working, tapping codes into a panel with sharp, quick movements. It was clear the situation was bigger than just 3 intruders in a tunnel. Evan turned to his companions. "We need to tell security everything." Lenari looked cautious. "Security already knows about sabotage, but not the deeper motive. If we tell them about the rogue faction, it might cause political trouble. But if we don't," Evan said, "the sabotage could succeed." Sarah looked between them, understanding the weight of both sides. "We must find evidence first. Without proof, our words may be dismissed. Some council members believe human involvement is suspicious. They may twist the truth." Evan understood the danger now. If he reported the intruders alone, some might accuse him of being part of the sabotage instead of stopping it. He needed clear proof. Something undeniable. "So what do we do?" he asked. "We search the power grid," Lenari replied. "Intruders often leave traces. Tools, signals, energy marks. If we find their signature, we can show the council the truth." Evan felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. He wasn't trained for politics, but he knew engineering. If there were traces, he could find them. "Let's go," he said. They moved through the engineering sector, passing machines humming with soft blue light. Pipes ran overhead, and the station's heartbeat pulsed through the floor. Evan checked readings on his datapad, comparing them with normal values. Several readings were too high: unusual energy frequencies, interference signals, and heat marks. "These aren't normal," he said, pointing to the datapad screen. Sarah touched the wall with her palm, closing her eyes. Illyrians had a unique ability to sense energy patterns. "There is residue of foreign equipment," she whispered. "Something was used here that does not belong to our station." Evan walked to a junction box, opened it, and found a small, thin device stuck to the side. It blinked faintly with red light. He felt a chill run through him. "A sabotage chip," he said quietly. "They planted this." Lenari stepped closer. "Is it dangerous?" "Yes," Evan answered. "If this had activated fully, it could have caused a chain reaction. Massive power shutdowns. Maybe even explosions in the lower levels." Sarah gently removed the chip using 2 thin metal tools. "This is enough evidence," she said. "Now, the council must listen." Evan nodded. His hands were shaking slightly, not from fear, but from realization. He had seen something that could have destroyed the station. He felt heavier now, more responsible. Just then, the floor vibrated again. But this time the vibration carried a strange sound, something like a distant thud. The lights dimmed, then steadied. "What was that?" Evan asked. Lenari touched the wall. She frowned. "Another disturbance. Deeper this time." Evan looked at his datapad again. The readings changed quickly. "There's a second attempt happening somewhere. We must go," Sarah said. "Before they succeed." "What about security?" Evan asked. "They will follow," Lenari said. "But we are closer. You know these systems. We can reach the source faster." Evan hesitated for only a second before nodding. They moved together through another set of tunnels, following the faint energy trail the device had left. The route became narrower. Pipes steamed lightly, and the lights flickered at odd intervals. Evan checked his datapad again. "The signal is coming from behind that barrier." A metal panel blocked the path. It was heavy, reinforced, and marked with warning signs. Sarah examined it closely. "It is sealed," she said. I can open it, Evan replied. He removed a small tool from his belt and connected it to the panel's lock. Sparks flickered, and the mechanism clicked. The door slid open slowly. Behind it was a dark chamber filled with humming machines. A soft red glow lit the room. Evan stepped inside carefully. Sarah whispered, "Be careful." Evan nodded but continued forward. Suddenly, Lenari's hand shot out and grabbed his shoulder. "Stop," she whispered. Evan froze. Ahead of them, partially hidden behind a machine, stood another figure, an intruder. This one was not running. Instead, he was adjusting something on a control board, something large and dangerous looking. Evan could tell instantly. This wasn't just sabotage. This was the main part of their plan. The intruder turned when he sensed movement. His eyes widened when he saw Evan and the two Illyrian maids. He stepped back, startled. "You again," he growled, recognizing Evan from the tunnels. Evan didn't respond. He stepped forward slowly. "Stop what you're doing. You'll destroy the station." "That is the idea," the intruder answered coldly. "Humans must be blamed. Only then will our council see the danger." Lenari's voice was firm. "You twist fear into violence. That is not the Illyrian way," the intruder hissed. "You protect the human? Then you are traitors." He reached for a device on the machine, preparing to activate it. Evan reacted instantly. Without thinking, he rushed forward, grabbing the intruder's arm. They struggled, the machine humming like it was moments from overload. "Evan!" Sarah shouted. Lenari moved quickly, using both hands to push the intruder back. Sarah grabbed Evan's arm and pulled him away just as the intruder stumbled. Evan scrambled to the control panel. His eyes scanned the device. "It's charging. I need to shut it down now." "How long do you have?" Lenari asked. "Less than a minute." Sarah moved beside him. "Tell me what to do." Evan worked with rapid focus, pressing keys, pulling wires, using every piece of knowledge he had gained in years of technical work. He guided Sarah's hands to specific cables. Together, they worked fast. The intruder staggered up again, ready to lunge, but Lenari stepped between him and Evan, her calm expression turning sharp. "You will not pass," she said firmly. The intruder hesitated. For the first time, he seemed unsure. Evan pulled one final wire and hit a switch. The machine powered down with a deep, fading hum. "It's done," he said, breathing hard. Security arrived moments later, capturing the intruder and securing the chamber. The danger had passed, but the exhaustion washed over Evan like a wave. Sarah touched his arm gently. "You saved the station," Lenari smiled faintly. "This is why we were told to watch you." Evan shook his head softly. "I'm no hero." "You are," Sarah said. "Even if you don't see it." Evan breathed out slowly. The night had turned into something bigger than he ever imagined. And he knew now that everything had changed his life. The station, and the trust between him and the Illyrians. And this was only the beginning. Evan walked slowly through the bright hallway toward the council chamber, feeling both tired and strangely peaceful. The last few hours had been heavy with danger and confusion. But now everything felt different. The sabotage attempt had been stopped, the intruder arrested, and the dangerous device safely shut down. The entire station owed its safety to a small team, 3 people who had not expected to face such chaos but had done it anyway. Lenari and Sarah walked beside him, their steps graceful as always. But today, their faces held something new. Pride. They looked at Evan with a quiet admiration that made his chest warm. He didn't feel like a hero, but they looked at him like he was one. As they approached the large chamber, Illyrian guards stepped aside, letting them pass. Inside, the wide room shimmered with soft blue lights. Dozens of representatives from different species stood or sat around a circular platform. The air was filled with whispers, questions, and tension. Everyone had heard about the incident, but few knew the truth. Evan felt nervous for the first time in hours. Facing danger had been easier than facing politics, he thought with a weak smile. Sarah sensed his unease and spoke softly. "You are not alone," Lenari nodded. "We remain with you." Their support gave him strength. He took a deep breath, stepped forward, and entered the center of the chamber. A tall Illyrian council elder stood up. Her silver hair floated gently around her, and her voice was soft but commanding. Evan Hale, you were involved in the disturbance that threatened our station. Please share what you witnessed. Evan nodded respectfully. He explained everything in simple, clear words. He described waking up to Lenari and Sira, learning about the rogue faction, discovering the sabotage chip, and stopping the intruder in the power chamber. He spoke honestly, not trying to make himself look brave. He only wanted the council to understand the truth. As he talked, many of the council members leaned forward, surprised by how calmly he explained everything. They expected fear or confusion from a human, but Evan's steady tone made them see him differently. When he finished, Lenari stepped beside him. Our observations confirm his words, she said gently. We were present at every moment, Sira added. The intruders acted out of fear of humans, not because humans caused any danger. Mine is off. End is off. End is off. A murmur spread through the chamber. Evan noticed some representatives relaxing, others looking ashamed for ever suspecting humans. The Illyrian elder nodded thoughtfully. The evidence supports your account. And the captured intruder admitted his intent to blame humans. It is clear a false narrative was being shaped. Evan felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Humanity's reputation would not be harmed because of lies. Another council member, tall and covered in shimmering scales, spoke. Human Evan Hale acted with courage and clarity. Without him, our station might have suffered great damage. Evan felt his face grow warm. Praise was something he still wasn't used to. Lenari spoke softly, but her words carried through the chamber. He also showed compassion in danger. He risked himself not to bring glory, but to protect the station. Sarah looked at Evan with gentle pride. We observed the human heart, and we believe our alliance will grow stronger because of it. The chamber fell silent. The Illyrian elder raised her hand. Let it be known that this human, Evan Hale, demonstrated qualities of bravery, calm thinking, and peaceful intention. These actions reflect positively upon all of humanity. A wave of soft light spiraled across the chamber. Illyrians used light to express agreement and appreciation. It was their version of applause. Evan had seen it before, but never directed at him. He swallowed hard, moved by the moment. He didn't know what to say, so he simply bowed his head respectfully. After the council adjourned, several representatives approached him to offer thanks. Others asked questions about human culture, curious now rather than suspicious. But Evan felt overwhelmed by all the attention. He excused himself politely and stepped outside the chamber, wanting a quiet moment. Lenari and Sarah followed him. You did well, Lenari said softly. Evan exhaled a long breath. I just spoke the truth. It takes strength to speak truth clearly, Sira replied. He smiled. I'm still the same person who fixes wires and replaces broken lights. Lenari shook her head gently. You are more than that now. They walked through the hallway, heading back toward the living quarters. The station lights were brighter than usual. The emergency atmosphere had ended, replaced by a sense of relief. As they reached Evan's room, he stopped at the door and looked at the two Illyrian maids. No, not just maids. Observers, protectors, friends. I never asked this, he said quietly. Why did they choose you two to watch me? Sira smiled softly. Because we understand emotions easily. Humans show many emotions, even when they try to hide them. We were chosen because we would see you clearly. And because, Lenari added, you needed companions who would not judge you based on what you are, but who you are. Evan rubbed the back of his neck. I didn't know how strange humans must look to you. Lenari's eyes softened. Not strange, different, and different is valuable. Evan felt warmth in his chest again. He entered his room, and they followed. Standing near the small round table where they had spoken that first night, everything felt so different now. He remembered how strange it had felt to see them watching him in the dark, silent and mysterious. Now he understood their intention. They weren't spying, they were learning, understanding, and protecting. He sat down, and they joined him. "So," Evan said lightly, "what happens now? Do you still stay assigned to me?" Sarah exchanged a warm look with Linari. "We have already requested to remain with you," she said. Evan blinked. "Requested? Why?" "Because our observation is not complete," Linari answered. "There is more about humans we wish to learn," Sarah nodded. "And because you treat us with respect, not fear." "We value that," Evan smiled. "I'm glad you're staying." A soft silence followed. It wasn't awkward. It was peaceful. The kind of silence that comes from trust. After a moment, Linari spoke softly. "Earlier, you wondered why our people observe at night. We said night reveals truth. But there is something else." Evan looked at her with curiosity. "What is it?" "In Illyrian belief," Linari continued, "when a person sleeps, their heart becomes quiet. And a quiet heart is easy to protect." Sarah added, "Our role begins with protection. That is why we were sent to you." Evan felt a small emotion stir in his chest. He realized he had misunderstood them the first night. What he thought was strange behavior had actually been their way of showing care. "Thank you," he said softly. "For everything." Linari bowed her head slightly. "And thank you for trusting us." Sarah smiled gently. "Your actions tonight made us see something special in humanity." Evan raised an eyebrow. "And what's that?" "That humans protect others even when they are afraid," she replied. "That is a rare and powerful quality." Their words filled the room with warmth. Outside the window, the stars shone calmly, reflecting off the station's metal surface. The danger had passed, and peace had returned. Evan felt a rare sense of belonging, something he had never expected to find so far from home. He leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes for a short moment. Exhaustion finally settled in, but there was no fear now. No confusion, only trust. When he opened his eyes again, Linari and Sarah were still there, sitting quietly, their expressions calm and protective, no longer observers hiding their purpose, but companions choosing to stay by his side. And Evan thought to himself, maybe the galaxy wasn't so big after all. Not when friendships like this could form across the vastness of space. He didn't know what adventures waited ahead, but he knew one thing for certain. He wouldn't be facing them alone. The night that had begun with confusion had ended with clarity, understanding, and a peaceful connection that felt stronger than fear. And for the first time since coming to the station, Evan felt completely at home.